Hi, I'm Jenny,
And I'm Karen. We're from redhoteyebrows.com.
and today we are doing a co-review of The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. We usually write our co-reviews, but today we're filming them. And as a warning, we always spoil everything. We like to discuss the entire book, and there's some really good spoilers in this book.
Yes.
So if you want to read it first, go do that and then come back. So first of all, what we want to talk about is our favorite parts of the book. Now, my very most favorite part of the book is Rudy. I love how he is obsessed with kissing Liesl. Like, he always is asking her, he asks to kiss her and then insults her by swearing at her. How he wants to steal food all the time, just everything about Rudy is my very favorite.
Yeah, he was a lot of fun. Probably my favorite part was Death as a narrator. I enjoyed the clever little witty insights and the way that Death narrated it with these interrupted bullet points.
On that same note of Death is how compassionate he was. Death is such a human character in the book, and I love that.
True.
His love for Liesl. You know, he talks about when he reads The Book Thief, the book that Liesl writes, at the end, the story of her life up to that point, how it affects him so much. You know, I thought that was awesome.
And I love, didn't you love that scene at the end when she's an old woman?
And he comes for her.
And he brings out her book so that she can read it one last time.
I love that, and she's like, "You read it?"
Yes.
So the climax of the story that I felt, it wasn't when the inevitable bombing comes that kills everyone Liesl knows, because we know that's going to happen. Death tells us right off the bat, Rudy dies. You know, where it's going to happen, what it's going to look like. To me, the climax of the story was the Jews being paraded through and Liesl spotting Max. And their little interchange they had, and them being whipped for talking to each other.
I agree that it really was the emotional climax of the story, and because we had that preview, Death gives us that preview right up front, just stark, no really emotional build up. But I don't know how I feel about that. I wasn't sure I really liked that. I felt like I should have felt more in that moment. And I felt bad because I felt like these characters deserved a little more mourning when they died.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because I just read a book called Sarah's Key, and it talks about a girl and she is a Jewish girl, going through the roundup that they did in France during World War II. And a lot of that book focuses on how damaged she was by it. And in a way, I was relieved not to see the damage done to Liesl after her whole entire family dies. It was nice to see Max find her. Fast forward 50 years or something, now she's an old woman welcoming death.
So talking about Liesl and Max, do you think they end up together at the end? Do you think he's the husband that Death references at the end?
How could they not be part of each other's lives at that point? But then again, could that turn into romantic? They're 12, we figure maybe 12, 13 years
Something
age
like
difference.
that, yeah.
So no, he would really have to wait quite some time for her to be grown up enough, or did he feel more like an older brother to her? So would then it be like an adopted family situation? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. And the text, I think you can interpret it either way.
Yeah.
So
What would you prefer happen?
You know, all throughout, because she was still so young, I was grateful that he wasn't turning it into a romantic situation. But then because Max is all that she has left at the end, I don't know. I'm not sure. If she were older, I would definitely say
Yes.
I want them together.
If anything, friends and bonded.
And it was a beautiful friendship.
It was.
It was beautiful, and that was not at all detracted because there wasn't an element of romantic interest. I thought instead it was still able to be beautiful and pure.
Okay, so Max writes a story for Liesl for her to find at some point. He tells Rosa to give it to Liesl when she's ready. And I love how he describes Hitler. So I'm just going to read this paragraph really quick. Yes, the Fuhrer decided that he would rule the world with words. I will never fire a gun, he devised. I will not have to. Still, he was not rash. Let's allow him at least that much. He was not a stupid man at all. His first plan of attack was to plant the words in as many areas of his homeland as possible. He planted them day and night and cultivated them. He watched them grow until eventually great forests of words had risen throughout Germany. It was a nation of farmed thoughts. And I just thought, that's exactly what happened. And then when Liesel does see Max, and when they're marched, the Jews are marched, to quote his book to him, that was so
Yeah,
beautiful to me.
it was beautiful. I thought it was a beautifully poetic story, but not entirely sure
Yeah, like her tree staying up in the tree, and it was a mile
while she was
high.
in there.
I didn't get any of that.
that she was
what any
able
of
to
that
keep
meant.
it. Yeah. So
That makes me feel better, good, because I was like, I'm not getting it.
the whole book was so full of metaphor, and I enjoyed it. And most of the time, there were times that some of the metaphors just didn't make a lot of sense to me, and I
Yeah.
sort of stumbled on them. One example, high in the window, her face appeared like a white flag with moist eyes and an open mouth. Her voice was like suicide landing with a clunk at Liesel's feet. And that the metaphor just didn't work for me.
I was like, what?
So many times there were things like that I just have to pause and, okay.
Yeah, one time that I actually like kind of chuckled that, is he just, reaching for things? At one point he says the sky was breakfast colored. Do you remember that?
Noticed that too.
And I was like,
Breakfast.
so like eggs
What
or
is the color
bacon,
of
milk?
breakfast, exactly.
Yeah. But in general, I would say I liked the book. I liked it a lot. It was definitely a different take. This is my 4th World War II book I've read this year.
Lucky.
Yeah, yay! And I usually avoid World War II books because a lot of times I can't emotionally put myself in that position over and over again.
Yes.
Because World War II is
How do
emotional.
you handle that subject without it just being heavy?
Yeah.
It's
Well, after reading Beatrice and Virgil, I was like incapacitated after that. So it's nice to have the same, topic, but in a completely different way
yeah.
and from a different perspective,
Yeah.
big time.
And it really focused so much more on her life as a German citizen
Mhm.
who doesn't agree with the war,
Yes.
and rather than what's actually going on with the Jews. I mean, you can't write a book about World War II without addressing that.
Right.
But it didn't really even dominate.
But to see these German villagers from a compassionate viewpoint.
Yeah. And knowing even those who supported Hitler and those who hated the Jews, but you still felt sympathy for them, not their ideology, but for them as
Just
individuals, because
just
you had a chance
villagers,
to see them in their life, and you can't help but feel for them.